And there's been a lot of talk among Bulls fans this offseason about, well, if we're hashtag continuity, run it back, how do we take this 25th ranked offense last season and make it better? And some of it being, do we need to remove some of that DeMar isolation mid-range game and get this ball moving more? And there are some who say, well, if you take away DeMar's elite mid-range scoring, this offense doesn't get better. It might actually get worse. So with that in mind, my goal, which we'll start with, was not necessarily trying to change who DeMar is or ask a unreasonable sacrifice of him as a veteran leader of this team and one of still this team's best players despite his age. Something that we have seen him do in the past, we know he can do, and it might behoove him and the Bulls to do so, which is why I want, just as I wanted Vooch's assist percentage to go up this season, because it means more ball movement and good, clean looks for everybody, I want DeMar's assist percentage to go up this season. Specifically, I am asking 27% assist percentage from DeMar this season. To just give you some numbers comparatively, for the past 2 seasons with the Bulls, his assist percentage was 23.3 in year one and then dipped down to 22.3 last season. Those seasons with the Spurs, when Pop said, hey, DeMar, I need you to facilitate more than you were doing in Toronto, and DeMar said, okay, Pop, his assist percentages with the Spurs were 27.6, 26.1, and 32. That final season in San Antonio when we saw him average damn near 7 assists a game. We know that DeMar can add that to his offensive game. I need DeMar to help this Bulls offense get the ball moving more and not stick constantly. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I picked a similar one. I think it's a key point that you mentioned that I want to reiterate, that like you don't want to ask DeMar to change who he is, because what he does well, he does as well as anybody. I also think like a lot of people criticize DeMar for not shooting threes. Like the problem with the Bulls offense and specifically with the 3-point volume is not DeMar. You need somebody who can score efficiently with the ball. And if he's somebody like Dame or Steph or prime James Harden who can hit step back threes, that's great. But when you can score as efficiently at any spot on the floor as DeMar can from the mid-range, you don't want to like remove that from his game. That's what makes the Bulls offense efficient. The problem is that there's no spacing around him, and I think there's a lack of trust in that spacing to where the ball doesn't move around as much. So I had a similar goal for you. I said, what did I say, Lawrence?
What did I
0.85 assist to usage. So I went a little bit of a different direction here, where yes, I think the raw assist percentage does need to go up. And assist percentage is what percent of the possessions, out of 100 possessions, do you result in an assist for your team. So the assist to usage tries to adjust for how much you actually have the ball.
Right.
So like what,
because his usage did go down from Bulls year 1 to Bulls year 2.
Exactly. Last year, 27.8 usage. Year before that, 31.8. So a huge dip in usage. 4% is a big number. That 31.8 though was a career high by a mile. So I think even if that usage stays the same, even if it goes up, like with that, the assist rate should also go up. So to add a little bit more context, last year, assist to usage was 0.75. I said 0.85, so I want that to go up. Year before that, 0.69. But as you said, with the Spurs, where he was really dialed in, it was 1.06, meaning he had a higher assist percentage than he did usage percentage, which is incredible, 97th percentile. Year before that, 0.91. Year before that, 0.9. I think he can get close to that without having to sacrifice too much in the way of his scoring and his elite efficient scoring. But I think especially with the added shooting, especially with Zach playing as well as he did down the stretch of last season, and especially having gained another year of continuity, like there needs to be a little bit more trust. I don't want to take the ball out of DeMar's hands, but I think he can generate some more offensive looks that result in open threes. And I think that's where that assist percentage can lead to.
I hear that. I hear those 2 points. I think they're both valid as hell. For me, I think I went straight with what it was called, which was prove it. And when it comes to me, and I was looking around and I'm going through this stuff, and I was like, prove it. And this is all I kept coming back to. Put it up there, Lawrence.
Can I guess?
NADT. Go ahead, Will.
Not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing. He don't have to prove a damn thing. DeMar DeRozan has been unreal as a Chicago Bull. In his seasons here, 26 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds since he's been with the Chicago Bulls. 87.7% his first season free throws, 87.2 the next season. This year, he will move into the top 30 as far as all-time scoring is concerned with the Chicago Bulls. That will be in 3 seasons. He will be in the top 30. Right now, in points per game, do you know what DeMar DeRozan is in points per game all-time for the Chicago Bulls? He's second in points per game. He's second. All right? That's insane. Now, that does speak to the futility of Chicago Bulls and how they played, but that's still astronomically insane that this dude is number 2, obviously behind Jordan. He's 26 a game. Jordan was 31. That's crazy. I don't want DeMar DeRozan to prove nothing. He's just been outstanding on the court and off the court. I'm sure you guys heard that Dalen Terry story that he told when DeMar DeRozan, he was on a podcast and he talked about working with DeMar DeRozan. He was talking about getting up at 4 a.m. He was like, DeMar DeRozan called him and was like, yo, it's time, get up. And he said he did, he brushed his teeth, got up. Said when he opened his door at 4:15, DeMar DeRozan was standing right there. Looking at him and telling him, yeah, come on, little mother. You know what I mean? Let's go. That's the kind of dude you want on your team. He has been impactful in so many ways off the court for the young guys. He has been impactful on the court. You know the clutch numbers. You know Matt talked about him being a mid-range monster and an assassin. Every time he touches the ball, I just think it's going in. I just think it's a bucket. He takes away worry for me in the fourth quarter because if the game is close, I'm like, fine, give it to DeMar and let's go ahead and get this victory or try to get this win right here. He has been great and has done it at the age he is, going into what his 15th season, playing about 36 minutes a game and doesn't miss games either. About 74 to 76 games is what he's going to play for the Chicago Bulls, man, whether he feels great or not. He's been amazing. For me, he has absolutely nothing to prove. Just keep being the awesome player on and off the court that he's been.
When you talk about DeMar needing to maybe shift certain ways that he plays his game or not to benefit the Bulls and the Bulls offensively, Bulls fans want different sacrifices from DeMar that I've seen. There's a lively debate in our comments going on right now about can we finally see a DeMar that's more willing to shoot a higher volume of threes because this team is so 3-point starved. I don't necessarily think that should be a focal point. I've also seen the argument from several people that our guy Throne Hatches suggested in the comments, which is bringing DeMar off the bench. That, I think, is an insulting sacrifice.
Never.
That DeMar DeRozan
Never in life
should not have to make, and no fault to him, I don't think, would not make. I don't think this is a Carmelo at the end of his career, Chris Paul going over to the Warriors and people debating whether or not he's going to crack into that Warriors starting 5 at this stage of, at Chris Paul's age. Yeah, DeMar's getting up there. But as you just laid out, Dave, he has been an all-star for the past 2 seasons. And deservedly so. Not like weird fan voting all-star. Like selected by the coaches of the league, bona fide all-star. Maybe you can make an argument for DeMar coming off the bench being in this team's best interest. I still would disagree with that, but it's also just grossly disrespectful.
Yeah, DeMar has been he's deserved every single thing he's gotten from the Bulls. I don't want to see him come off now, if he's dropping the 16 points a game, like you said, Matt, if this is a Carmelo Anthony situation where it's clearly beneficial for him to come off the bench for that, then fine. But this dude has been your best player for your team since he's got here, since he walked in the door and wasn't meant to be your best player, but was like, no, I'm going to be the best player on your team. I don't know how many games he's won for us. I mean, you can't even talk about him without talking about those back-to-back victories on New Year's Day. Like, that was all DeMar DeRozan, man. Like, he is an all-star. He is all NBA here with the Chicago Bulls. The best years of his career statistically have been here with the Chicago Bulls, man. Like, so unless that falls off a cliff, I don't even entertain putting that man on the bench, man. Absolutely not.
I know we don't all necessarily see totally eye to eye on this, but I also just think that people underestimate how much he keeps this team afloat. Like, I really do think that the bottom would fall out if DeMar was not on the court. And like, you can argue what you want about what direction the Bulls should take, who is the more valuable player, who's the better trade chip. Like, I genuinely believe that if DeMar was to miss this entire season, or if they were to trade him and not get much back in return, this team would look a lot worse and not really be close to the play-in. Like, I've always said, DeMar is the ultimate floor raiser. LaVine is the ultimate ceiling raiser. And I think that's true. Like, Zach is the kind of guy, and responding here to another comment from much earlier in the show, like, I'm not saying Zach is not worth the haul. It's more just like about the marketplace. And I think that's true for DeMar too. Like, what those guys are worth in a vacuum or for this team is different than what it would be for any other team, especially considering just the marketplace around stars and how they're traded right now. Both of these guys are incredibly talented, but I think DeMar keeps the team afloat. He's steady. He raises the floor so much in a way that I just don't think they would be able to recover from. Not only if they just moved him to the bench, but if they traded him for nothing, or if he walks in free agency next year, like, it's not going to look good. And a huge piece of that is just the steadiness. Like, he is in a lot of ways the point guard of this team, you know, regardless of how we feel about what his assist percentage is or assist usage, whatever. Like, I really like what you had, Dave, as your prove it, because he already does everything that you want out of a guy. And maybe he's not like a tier 1A super duper star that can be the best player on a championship team, but like, he raises the floor of this team more than anybody else does. And he automatically makes you in that race for a play-in spot.
Last thing, and then we can take our second break. But when it comes to the DeMar thing and whether or not he fits, because I saw Damon saying Pop couldn't wait to get rid of DeMar because he didn't fit. Bulls fans make the argument that DeMar is not a fit with these other pieces. I think it was Sports Chicago Style in the comments earlier who asked, if Billy yells run, will DeMar run? And that's a simple way of raising a more complicated question of, the Bulls have said under Billy Donovan, we want to play faster, we want to get out and transition, and we want to add some of these randomness elements to our offense. DeMar being your most reliable offensive piece in the slow plotting way that he dominates is counterintuitive to the Bulls successfully doing that on offense, Will.
Yeah, but I also think that like those two things aren't mutually exclusive. That's why we saw success when Lonzo was hitting ahead passes to Zach LaVine and throwing overhand like 100-mile-an-hour fastballs for 360 dunks. Like, you can have really good transition play and then still have a ultimate, I'm going to get my shot and it's going to probably go in type of closer on your team for like the second part of a possession. I think that's where that's where like the misalignment comes in. The Bulls' like initial actions of their offense have not been good enough. I think they over-rely on DeMar in those situations. Part of that's on DeMar, part of that's on the team, part of that's on the rest of the guys. And as a result, it's on the front office. But I don't think you can just say DeMar doesn't fit because he likes to do that. Because as soon as he's gone, you're going to see how much you miss that. I think the Bulls need to do a better job of finding open looks through the flow of an offense early on in the possessions. But then you got to have a guy like DeMar who can just get a shot up. And Zach can do that too, but you can't just have one guy that can score. Like, you really need guys that can play off of one another. And I just don't think that like removing him for Patrick Williams to get a few more touches a game is like a very productive way to win games this year. And that's really what it comes down to. That's the goal, is winning games. If you wanted to lose and go pure player development and give the ball to Patrick and Kobe, like, that's what happened. You'd lose. And that's not what this team wants to do.